2 tablespoons of salt. What? Of course not. How am I supposed to know what this is? Nope. There we go. Hang on. That's sugar. Oh, okay, don't be that guy. I'm Josh Marshall, and today I want to talk about how to make version control work for you. So, jumping right into it, I want to start with one of the most important version control habits: summarizing your changes. Every time you commit, you have an opportunity to describe what you changed. And with this, it's kind of like logging. It's much better to have it and not need it than to need it and not have it. And you never know when you or somebody you work with is going to need the context of that code you just checked in. I literally just had a situation where I found some really helpful information from a commit message that I left a few years ago. I came across this code here where I created a something called a flex router, and it turns out this is a class I created myself. And when I jump over to the file and I read it, it doesn't have a lot of comments. I can kind of see like it adds an extra view to be registered based on some extra root URLs that I can uh, register myself manually, but I don't really know what this class was for. So because I know that I leave pretty good messages for myself, I just went ahead and checked the annotation in Git. So this is something that you can do pretty easily in PyCharm. You can also do it in the command line, and most other tools give you something like this. Visual Studio has something like this as well. So I went into the annotation and I checked this, and it looks like I committed this whole file in one line. I can easily click there, and it jumps me directly to my commit message where it says, "Added custom router to enable views to be registered in the API root." And then it hit me like, oh yeah, that's right. By default, you can't put views on your API root. And that was something that was really important to me. So I made my own custom router for it. And it's just that easy. With a simple search through my history, I get to avoid looking through all these pages again to understand what are routers, what are their features, and what are their limitations. Wow, Past Josh, you're such a genius. Thanks, bro. I know. And while I'm at it, I might as well just add this to the doc string too. Now, you might be thinking, but Josh, how am I supposed to remember all those changes I just committed? If that crossed your mind, this next tip should help a whole lot. Commit more often. When you commit more often, you get more commits with smaller changes, which also means less code to remember to describe when you actually commit it. Committing more often also creates more checkpoints that you can restore to if you ever want to quickly revert some of your work. All right, now I need you to commit 3 times a day and push daily, okay? Now you might have noticed earlier that I added a code comment that was basically the same as my commit summary. You might be wondering like, why copy that information in 2 different places? Why not just keep it in one spot? Sometimes your commit summary will overlap with your comments, but even in those cases, it's still a good idea to double it up in your commit summary. That reason is for improved searchability. Not even like a day or two ago, I needed to revisit some code that I originally wrote to solve a problem, but then later on I removed that code because I found an even better solution for that particular problem. But now I need the code again. So I have a serverless Django REST API where I needed to create a super user account in this serverless environment. And in order to do that without putting the credentials in the code, I was going to use Google Secrets Manager. Secrets Manager has an API that lets you load secrets from directly within your code as long as you're authenticated. Now, you don't actually have to understand Django or Django migrations, but the original way that I did this was with a migration script. That's something that I actually found directly from Google's documentation. And in the long run, it turned out I got a working solution, but the problem was it was just very cumbersome. Because it was a migration script, I needed to have my dependencies in a certain order. And the migration script would also create a database record, and it was really just a one-time thing that I needed to do. I did one more quick search and found that the create superuser option actually has a dash dash no input flag, which takes its information from environment variables. And so I got to replace about 30, 40 lines of code with like a one-liner that just does exactly what I needed. But now I once again needed that Google Secrets API for other secrets, such as my database credentials or my secret hashing salt. And so I knew that my original commit was related to a migration. So I went to my commit history and searched for migrate without the E. And I think it's this one right here. Yep, this is exactly the code that I need. This is how we access the secrets manager. And basically all I need to do is copy this code into the new location, and I can skip out on reading all that documentation again. So here you can see that another benefit of summarizing your changes is that it creates searchability for code that may no longer be visible. Wow, Past Josh, you're such a genius. Thanks, bro. It has pockets too. At the enterprise level, this is even more impactful. Personally, I can remember countless times when I needed some really important information and I had to go talk to Joe, who was on the project, but he didn't remember. It's been like 6 months, a year. But he directed me to Mary, and Mary directed me to Sue, who's no longer at the company. And finally, like 3 to 4 hours later, I talked to Bob from accounting, who somehow knew everything that I needed. I can also remember countless other times where just a few searches in the history got me exactly the info I needed without bothering anybody, and in under a minute. It really does make that big of a difference. So if you're not already summarizing your commits, now is a great time to start. Your teammates are going to love you for it, and you're going to love it even more when it's your commit that saves the day. When your team has useful history, it really does kind of feel like you've got a personal assistant that's just going off and doing other things for you so you can stay focused on the things at the top of your list. And that's how you make version control work for you. As always, make sure to like and subscribe for more. And I have a feeling if you made it this far, you probably also want to see these videos. Yeah? Yeah?